When freed Black Americans sailed back to Africa in the 1800s, they didn't return as victims. They returned as pioneers, but also as strangers. They came with American clothes, they came with American politics, American accents, but they also came with a dream to build a replica of the country they left behind. But you see, that dream also carried a shadow. How do you return home when home no longer recognizes you? Liberia wasn't founded by indigenous Africans. It was founded by the American Colonization Society. I mean, just that name alone tells you all you need to know. That was a group that wanted free slaves sent back to Africa. So thousands of Black Americans boarded ships and arrived on the West African coast. But when they landed, they did not blend in. They formed a new class, the Americo-Liberians. They built houses that looked like the southern plantations. They wore Western suits in this tropical heat. And we still wear suits today. Now you know why. They wrote laws in English modeled after the United States Constitution. It was Africa, but it was Africa wearing American face. Indigenous communities, the Kru, the Bassa, the Vai, Gola, they had been there for centuries. But when the Americo-Liberians came, they did not integrate. They ruled. For more than a century, less than 5% of them held nearly all political power. They introduced taxes the locals never agreed to. They monopolized trade. They created a ruling class that looked African but thought American. And underneath the surface, something painful grew. Two Africas sharing one land but not one identity. Two separate identities. By the mid-20th century, tensions exploded. Indigenous Liberians began to reject the system that excluded them for centuries. And the Americo-Liberians' political order, once confident, began to fall apart. So the dream of building America in Africa collapsed under its own contradictions. Because you see, imitation cannot replace identity. You cannot imitate what you are not. You cannot imitate who you are not. And even till today, we are still trying to do that in subtle ways. Adopting policies that are not ours, adopting ways of life that are not natural to us. Liberia is one of Africa's unique stories because it wasn't one of the colonizers versus the colonized. It was of a people returning home with the culture of their oppressors and accidentally becoming what they escaped. It reveals something deep about Africa's psychology. You see, when identity is stolen, sometimes even with good intentions, you rebuild using somebody else's blueprint. Liberia reminds us that freedom is not just political. It is cultural, it is psychological, it is the ability to build without copying the world that once caged you. Liberia did not fall because Africa was weak. It struggled because trauma cannot build a nation. When culture is stolen, rebuilding becomes complicated. And that's the story of Liberia. But you see, remembering your roots is the first step to healing. And that is the purpose of this conversation we're having. We need to heal as Africans. We need to remember who we are and heal from that trauma. A lot of Africans still carry that trauma. Not the trauma that they experience themselves. It's epigenetic because people who experience those things decades, centuries ago, that's flowed down through the bloodline. And even today, we act in ways that we do not know. So first thing is healing. Then we can then start to talk about freedom. We can then start to talk about recovery and then building and growth and progress. Until next time.